What's going on, everybody? This is Jeff Gamble, Indianapolis, Indiana, and this is the Lunchtime Leadership Show. What we're going over today is law number 16, the law of Big Mo. So if you're just joining us, please let us know where you're dialing in or coming from, city and state or country. Adriana's with us, Bess is with us. Happening, sir? Good morning to some, good afternoon to others.
Howdy, everyone. Welcome to this MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show. Today is law number 16 of the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership that we are teaching from by John Maxwell. So number 16 is the law of the Big Mo, which is momentum, because momentum is a leader's best friend. When have you experienced this? We'll chat about that. We are Jeffrey David Gamble of My Leadership Network, also a certified John Maxwell trainer, and Bess McCarthy of the MLM Millionaire Club, School for Network Marketers, also shrink of MLM. And we love being here with you every weekday at noon Eastern Time. We get to sit with you for a little while. It's my favorite part of the day. And we get to partner to bring you this generic training. Our purpose is to help people grow, to educate, equip, and empower entrepreneurs and create independent servant leaders. If you're watching the replay, we'd love if you type that in. Also, where you're from, because we love seeing where you are from. And for those who share to other groups so that they can be watching live at the same time, thank you very much. We're getting great feedback about that. So the law of momentum, this is very interesting. Success loves speed, as you may have heard that saying. So I'm looking forward, grabbing a pen and paper. I got mine here and ready to learn, Jeff.
Absolutely. So speed is what you want, especially when it comes to momentum. And inside of direct sales, network marketing, or MLM, it's absolutely one of the things that will change the game. The unfortunate part is most people don't end up experiencing it because of some of the things they're doing. So let's get into this. You can steer a ship, but if it's not moving forward, it makes it a lot harder to, change direction. So law number 16, the law of momentum, or Big Mo. Momentum is a leader's best friend. And the reason momentum is a leader's best friend is momentum is a great exaggerator. It's a great exaggerator of what's going on. It can look like things are actually happening that may not actually be happening yet. And meaning, it may look like the team is exploding and the numbers are going through the roof when maybe it's not necessarily going yet, but it's about to. And what I mean by that is once you start the activities that lead to big momentum, once you start the activities, it's like you feel like you're going crazy. You might feel like you're working yourself, into oblivion, but it takes a while for it to take off. It doesn't happen right away. And, the analogy of bringing wood to the fire and bringing wood to the fire and bringing wood and adding, gasoline and adding gasoline and adding gasoline, it doesn't seem like it takes off. But when it does, it comes so fast with, such force. It's almost like you have to step back. And if you've ever seen somebody do this, they've added too much, gas to the fire. And you almost have to take a step back and just, be aware that you can get burnt by something, even though, at the moment, it didn't seem like it was moving. So momentum makes the leader look better than they are. I can tell you this from personal experience. People came up to me at a certain point in the business and, how do you create momentum? That's what a lot of people, everybody wants it, but how do you create it? It took a consistency. It took doing more than average. See, it's impossible to create momentum with average effort. It's impossible to create momentum with average energy. It's impossible to create momentum, with average dreams, because you're just not going to put in enough of the work, enough of what takes. I was listening to a video by Grant Cardone yesterday, and he's like, the average person makes 8 phone calls a day. If the average person makes 8 phone calls a day, 200 some a month, or 3,000 a year, that's great, but that's average. So if you're in direct sales, if you're only talking to or trying to get a hold of 8 people a day, Think about that. That's 8 people. It's not that you're getting a hold of all of them. It's not that you're presenting to all of them, but they're only making 8 phone calls a day. He made the analogy. He's like, the reason why we're winning is, he goes, we have 40 people making on average of 150 phone calls a day. Now that's sales. That's, you know, selling a product, not necessarily direct sales. The power of direct sales is you have the ability to do a whole lot less work. But my question is if the average person's doing 8 sales and average isn't going to work, how many people are you trying to get a hold of? How many contacts are you making? How many presentations are you doing? And that's one of the things that I was able to figure out. I went around the room, you know, here in Indianapolis years ago when I first got into direct sales, and I started asking people, not necessarily how many phone calls they're making, not necessarily how many contacts they're making, because the contact is almost irrelevant to the number of presentations. And what I mean by that is everybody has a different ratio. What really matters is the actual movement is the number of presentations. Now, you have to get good at contacting to get to a good ratio. Don't get me wrong. You know, some people don't know the right contact. Some people aren't using the right words. And if you're not using the right words, and, you know, if your goal of going west is heading east, you know, that's going to be hard. So, you know, learn to head the right direction with the right words. I learned that first. And then I got down to what is the work? What is the work that it takes to make this happen? Started asking everybody in the room, and eventually what happened is people actually started giving me real numbers. And what I mean by real numbers is I sat in the back and I asked people, and they were like, oh, I do about 15. About 15. Great. Do you have a calendar? Yeah. Well, how many does a calendar? Oh, I don't track it. Here's one thing that I know for sure. If you're not tracking it, you're probably exaggerating what you're doing in your own mind to make it feel like you're doing it. Bess is shaking her head going, yes. Because if you coach people, they're always like, oh, yeah, I'm killing it. How many people did you show last month? Well, let me see. Let me find my notebook. You know, I called this person 17 times. That's great. How many did you show it to? 2. You know, when we get down to it, 2. And then, you know, coaching becomes really easy when you have the numbers. Well, do you think 2 a month is enough to create the momentum? How many people are you trying to sponsor? 4. Does 2 ever turn out to be? No, it can never turn out to be 4. So, you know, that's part of what we're talking about here is, you know, momentum makes the leader look better, because once you get it going, it looks like things are magical. Now here's why. Young leaders often get less credit than they deserve because they have little or no momentum. So you might be really good at certain things. You might be really good at certain things, and you might be, you know, crushing it. But when you're brand new, you're not really going to get credit for any of that, because nobody's going to actually see the movement, because nobody's seen you move before. Nobody's seen the activities you're doing. Once a leader creates success and develops a career momentum, then people give him credit that almost he doesn't deserve. Oh, the last time they just killed it. Well, it may be that they started moving so fast and ignorantly. I was moving ignorantly fast. Ignorantly fast is I didn't realize that I was outproducing an activity 2 to 3 times what everybody else was doing. Now, I didn't even know, I hadn't even heard of the book 10X, that you could outproduce everybody by 10 times. Now, by the time I heard it, I understood it. I had actually done it a couple times, and the results were so overwhelming. You know, rather than trying to present, you know, 30 times a month, imagine trying to present 300 in a month. That's 10 times a day. When you get to that momentum, you know, it's actually, it becomes harder to track. But you know, what you do is you start remembering, well, I presented this many times this day, 6, 8, 10 times a day. I think my record so far is 13 presentations in a day. You know, if you're averaging 20 to 30 minutes, that's hours of presentations. You know, people are like, well, how did you memorize, you know, your presentation so fast? Well, the difference is if you're only showing 3 people a month your presentation, you're probably not going to memorize it even by the end of the year. But if you show 100 people in the first month, you'll have it memorized about day 10. About day 10, you'll know that presentation inside and out. You know, hi, my name's Jeff Gamble from Indianapolis, Indiana, and my company, you know, has been around for this long, and, you know, the 2 people who run it are this, and, you know, the product line is, you know, these 12 to 13 things, and, you know, on and on and on. And you can go through and you can even memorize a comp plan. You know, there's 3 ways to get paid. Here's the ways to get paid. We also have this program and this program and this program. But I say the same thing over and over again. One of the things that Grant Cardone says is if you plan on creating momentum, you need a script. You need a script for exactly what to say. You need a script for your presentation. You need a script for your opening. You need to stay on the path of the exact words to create create three things. You need to create confidence, you need to create clarity, and you need to be concise. You know, confidence, you know what you're talking about. You know, if you say the same thing over and over and over and over again, this is one of the things that helps you create momentum. Two, after you have confidence, you have to have clarity. Clarity means there is an order to your presentation. I can't tell you the number of people who come up to me and try to present to me, and I mean, it is like they remind me of a pinball machine. A pinball machine. There's 25 things they want to say, and they just go bouncing around the machine with different well, and did you know this? And did you know this? And did you know that? And did you know this? And there is no rhyme or reason or order to what they're saying, and they get done and they're like, you know, I mean, they kind of look like, you know, that spastic dog after it ran around and got a toy, and they're like, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And that's what they always say. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? I'm like, no, I have no idea what you're talking about, because neither do you, because you have no rhyme or reason to the order in which you put this in. And that's part of the reason is you have all the energy in the world, but you don't have clarity. I can't follow it because it's not in order. And it might make perfect sense to you bouncing around because you've been in the business and you're excited and you're already signed up, but it makes no sense to anybody else. You bring a presentation book with you and you say the same thing every time. That's one of the ways, that's one of the things that as a coach that you can ask right away. Do you say the same presentation every time? And they're like, huh? I mean, I know right away what the problem is. Mm-hmm. Some of this stuff is really, really simple. So once a leader creates success and develops career momentum, then people give them credit for. So let's move on to this next part, living the law of momentum. One word that can help you enjoy the fruit of your labor to be able to build momentum without letting it destroy you is gratitude. Just being grateful. Grateful to see the industry, grateful to see the profession, grateful to meet these people. You know, if you wake up every day and you're like, man, I'm so glad that I was able to actually, you know, run into this opportunity. You know, this one's easy if you go to work every day. If you go to work every day and you're listening to your audio on the way to work, which is what you should do, Drive Time University, that's where you get the information. You know, people are like, how did you stay excited? How did you stay motivated? I didn't listen to the garbage. You know, we used to use the phrase, you know, CNN. CNN actually stood for all news, so don't think I'm choosing a side here. CNN or any type of news used to say constant negative news. And the news is negative, period. I don't care which side of the fence you stand on or which side of the political fence you stand on. All news is negative. All news is going to point out what the other side or what the other people are saying. The reason being is negativity. Everybody likes to get on the negativity bandwagon. They're like, you know, we've worked here too long. Oh my gosh, we have worked here too long. And, you know, and then everybody else chimes in, and then they're going to bring in an expert to talk about why it's terrible to work where you work. You know, everybody else who's driving to work is listening usually to that kind of information. You know, they may be listening to a song about freedom, which is really funny. Listening to a song about freedom while you're driving to work is kind of like paying the cannibals to eat you last. You might get that one on the way after. But that's just what people do. People almost don't realize that they're heading in like flocks of sheep. You know, I remember an audio by this guy, and he's like, you know, once I actually started building my business and I started really understanding how to get out of the situation I'm in, he's like, I had to drive down this highway. This was Springfield, Missouri. And, you know, in Springfield, Missouri, there's a lot of pastures. And he's like, here I am in the car and there's a traffic jam. And I'm sitting there, you know, I'm drinking and I'm trying to get my, you know, my breakfast sandwich wolfed down. And I look over and there's just this guy and he's, you know, sitting at his wheel and he's chewing, like, you know, going to work, wonder why I have to be here. And he's like, and then I look the other way and there's this cow out in the field, just sitting, same look on his face, just chewing. You know, there's a big sign, you know, up that says, you know, red meat, you know, unbelievable, you know, unbelievable products, unbelievable meat. And he's like, you just wonder if that cow is just chewing. I don't know what that sign says, you know. These are just things that, you know, you have to pay attention and realize, you know, where you're at and what's going on. But if you choose gratitude, if you choose, man, I'm so lucky. Look at all these people around me who are going to work. They don't have a way out. They don't know how to get, you know, out of this situation. All they know is I have 10 more years or 20 more years. I mean, have you ever talked to somebody that's like, well, I just know retirement's 20 years off. You know, at that point I can slow down. You know, this is the same person that tells us they don't have enough money right now. And they're thinking, well, if I just wait long enough, maybe somehow, some way, me not doing anything will add up to enough for me to be able to retire. I will tell you, in most cases, it doesn't happen. And the reason I know that is by statistics right now, the greatest group of people filing bankruptcy is over 65. Doesn't that sound great? Work your whole life just to get to a point where you can retire, realize you don't have enough money, you don't have anything, and then you file bankruptcy. Now, what does that mean? In most cases, filing bankruptcy means, you've lost the ability of all credit. So you have no credit at all. Then, you're losing the ability to go rent a place usually right away. Even though you now are freed up financially, maybe, you don't have the money to rent a place. You probably lost the place you're in. You're probably going to have to get rid of doesn't this sound exciting? You work your whole life just to be put in a situation where you have less. That's one of the reasons why it's more difficult to build around a group of people who are looking to retire than it is people coming straight out of school that don't know even where they're going. Because certain people are so ingrained. Now, I also think that anybody over the age of 50 are also the best people to recruit. So it goes hand in hand. It's just finding those people. What you have to do, every area is the same. Everybody's like, well, you have to understand in my area. Every area is the same. You have to find the hungry ones. Every area is the same. You have to find the people who get it. Every area is the same. You have to find the people and create the momentum regardless. Because here's the thing. You are where you are. Unless you plan on picking up and moving to somewhere new, you are where you are. You make the best of what you've got right there. Chris is with us. Michael's with us. What's happening? Even average people perform better than they are when momentum's present. That one's awesome. Even average people. Now, why? Because an average person can come in with average thoughts and average activity, but in a room that has momentum. Now, here's how momentum works. When you have 5 people in the room, it's very difficult to create momentum. Why? Because everybody's looking and everybody's questioning, is this going to work? But when it gets to 50, people start thinking, it could work. It could work. Look at how many people there are. Wow, this room's starting to get big, especially if you were there from the beginning. Now, when it goes from 5 to 50, in a very short period of time, people know it's exploding. But watch this. There's a magical number. When 100 people enter the room, you end up having something called social proof. And what happens with social proof is social proof tips the scale into momentum. They say, somewhere around 150 to 200 people, it's somewhere in that number, that 80% of the guests will show up regardless of how great the presentation was. Why? Because when you have that many people showing up to anything, the excitement level goes up, the momentum level goes up. It just, social proof pulls forward any negativity, any objective, because what you start seeing is people like you. People maybe you think that are less qualified than you, especially when you put a room of people up in the front of the room, or a room of testimonials up in the front of the room, and you have Bob the mechanic that's like, hi, I don't know what I did, I just got in, and I was in at the beginning when there were 5 people here, and then all of a sudden there were 50 people, and now there's 200. I don't even know how this worked. But I'm here. I've made it. I went from working my part-time mechanic thing to now a $2,000 a month, and on down the road, and the next person. All of a sudden, social proof kicks in because there's so much diversity in the room. You're thinking, well, if that guy can do it, I can do it. If that lady can do it, I can do it. If that couple can do it, I can do it. The initial work is the hardest. The initial work is the hardest for the least results, isn't it? Isn't it tough to learn the business? Isn't it tough to go out and learn the presentation? Isn't it tough to go out and learn the contact, learn the invite? That's the hardest part of the business. Why? Because when you're out learning it, there are no results for it. Some of these other lessons we teach, you've already got results. But in the beginning, when there are no results, it's like you are making steps, but you're questioning whether you're making steps forward. You're like, am I walking in a circle? I have friends that have asked me that. They're like, I feel like I'm going in circles. I'm like, well, the reality is you're moving forward. But people like me, when I got started, I went 0 for 300. Why? Because think about this. If things don't start to happen in your business until you cross, let's say 5. So on a scale of 1 to 10, things don't actually start to happen in your business until you cross 5. You have to get to number 6, let's just say. So number 1 is, I don't know who I am. I don't know what this is. I don't know how it works. I question everything. I sit in the back. I don't dress the part. My attitude's bad. I have negativity. All these, I mean, if you listed everything that you needed to make it, you're basically starting at zero. One is I've fixed 10% of that. Two is I've fixed 20% of that. Three, I've fixed 30%, 40%, 50%. But you got to tip the scale to be able to start attracting people. Does that make sense? You know, you're dressing the part, you're saying the right things. You might have some stuff still messed up. You might not get it all, but you've done enough of the right things and showed up consistently enough where you've tipped the scale past level 5. The problem is some of us are not starting at 0, and we think we're starting at 0. I was starting at like -15. I had 150% to improve to get to 0. And there are certain people, you can hear their stories. They're like, it took me years of being in the business, years of the stuff coming into my head, years to reprogram. I mean, one of the #1 money earners in the business talks about this. Holton Bugs. Holton Bugs talks about 7 years. He's like, for 7 years, I sat, I went to the meetings. For 7 years, I listened to the audios. For 7 years, I listened to these speakers. For 7 years, I acted like I was reading. For 7 years, I showed up. And it took 7 years to get to 0. Then the right opportunity came along with the right people at the right time. I made the jump and the switch. And all of a sudden, what he did is he caught on to believe. He saw people go from 0 to 20,000, from 0 to 50,000, from 0 to 100,000. And he's like, how can it happen this fast? I thought it took forever. Because where he started from. All of a sudden, he started believing. He made some decent money in a company, and then another opportunity came up right at the right time, at the right place. He took off, became one of the #1 money earners in the world. The point is, some people, it takes time. Think about this. The #1 money earner in the world for 5, 6, 7 years took 7 years just to get to 0. So don't feel bad if you're, feel like you're stuck in the mud. So the initial work is the toughest for the least results. Know it, understand it, protect every bit of momentum you build. Now, here's something that a lot of people do is they'll start to gain momentum, and then their job mentality takes over, and they're like, well, I've worked really hard for 2 days, so I'm going to take this weekend off. Okay. Can you imagine doing that? And I use the analogy, and I heard somebody use this analogy a long time ago. Just use the analogy of a little kid. If you start a business, you're starting with a baby. It's new. It doesn't know how to feed itself. It doesn't know how to change itself. It doesn't know how to do anything. How often do you need to tend to a little one? All the time. People are like, well, how often can you take off in the first year? People are like, what are you talking about? You can't take off in the first year. That doesn't even make sense. What about the second year? Not really. What about the third year? Not really. What about the fourth year? It takes about 5 years before you can be like, okay, I'm going to put him over here in the crib, and I'm going to put a cage around it just so, it doesn't get out into things because it climbs and cries and, pulls things off the shelf and everything like that. I mean, that's how a business is. That's why they say it takes 2 to 5 years to create something significant that you can walk away from. Isn't that interesting that they use the words walk away? It doesn't say you can leave it. It says you can walk away from it from a time. Now, I'm not advocating walking away from your kids. Some people are like, I'm confused. What is he talking about? I'm just talking about you can walk away from your business and it keeps running. But if you treat it like a kid in the beginning where you're going to tend to it. And that's why a lot of people don't want to enter into the business, into direct sales, because what it really takes is it is tough work. But what are the benefits? What are the benefits? It can give you benefits that a job can't. But some people would rather just justify the scraps than they would eat the good meal. Well, I'm getting fed just enough, that I'm starving, but I'm not starving all the time. Oh, okay, that's much better. #4, momentum is easier to steer than it is to start. We kind of talked about that. 80% of the effort, watch this, 80% of the effort is getting it going. 20% is managing it once you have it. It really works like that. But here's the thing. I heard somebody say that, and then a guy's like, but it's really about 97.3. It's really about 97.3. It really is. I mean, you will think in the beginning, You can look back and be like, okay, it wasn't as hard, but mentally it was harder than what you look back on, because mentally you don't understand what it takes to begin with. So it's so much harder to understand what it really takes. 97.3, just think that's the work I have to put in. 97% of the work. And I heard this from, our mentor. So like 97% of the work you do inside your business is completely worthless. But the 3% is what's going to make you wealthy. The problem is you're not going to know what the 3% was. And not in the beginning. You go out, and here's the analogy. You go out and show 100 people. You don't know the 3 people that are going to set you free. You just know that you have to show 100. And you have to show 100 in a short period of time. Momentum is powerful. It's a powerful change agent. It can change an individual so fast when they hit momentum. I mean, we see this all the time in the movies or in music. Somebody's trained and trained and trained and wrote music and wrote music and wrote music. And all of a sudden they have one break. They have one break that opens the door to momentum. And it seems like somebody goes from unknown to nationally known in 12 months. Oh my gosh, that person's been everywhere. Oh my gosh, every TV show. Oh my gosh, every, radio station. They're in the movies. All of a sudden they're everywhere. We don't get to see the struggle before that. It might have taken them 10 years to get noticed, and it seems like 12 days to get famous. But it was the 10 years of being out there, doing it, out there, figuring it out. That's what it takes. Now, it might not take you 10 years in this, but it might take you 10 years. The question is, would you be better off for it? It is imperative that we understand how to best help our clients initiate change and create momentum. Our clients, what about our team? So with that, I'm going to take a break here because we've got a couple more sections. I'm going to turn this over to Bess for her thoughts on big momentum, and then I'm going to come back and finish this up.
Hello, Kelly Rakowski. Glad to see you here. A dear friend who is a wonderful leader herself and a great, kind and loving and knowledgeable inspiration to her team. She's popped onto some of these, so glad to see you here. And I also want to say hi to Adrian, Nate, Benny from Indianapolis, and Donna from Scotland, and Mihai, and Monica, and Julie, and Michael, and Alan, Marty, Jim, Kirsten, Chris, Jacqueline, Camille, Denise, Thomas, and Steve. Oh my God, everybody. We're glad you're here. It's our treat to sit here with you. If you're getting value, we love the likes and loves, and we love if you can comment, share with someone, tag a friend who might benefit from this. That's what we're about, helping as many people as we can. If you have a question, type that in, because we'll take questions and comments at the end, especially if you get a takeaway. Have you ever experienced momentum? Have you ever experienced the joy of moving fast? Please type yes. Or if you want to experience what we're talking about, because I'll tell you, it is a thrill. To me, the momentum is like that really thrilling feeling I get when a plane, you're going to fly somewhere and you're in a plane, it's kind of taxiing around. That's nice. Yeah, we're moving. But when it decides to really take off, when it's done taxiing and it knows that it's clear for taking off, then you get the big speed. And I don't know, that's just a rush that I love. Maybe not everybody feels that way, but when that plane starts really moving, I feel confident and strong and secure that I'm going to be safe in that plane. The pilot knows what he's doing, that momentum is stronger than anything else, and it's going to carry me into the sky and carry me to my destination or to my loved ones or to my convention I'm going to or anything. So I just love that speed. It's a strong, safe feeling to be in that speed. And that's the feeling that I have when I lead network marketers through a challenge, because I am running with them. They're in a 30, 60, or 90-day challenge, and they do extra than they usually do, which is about, the average challenge is about 10 presentations a day. So that's going at a nice speed, isn't it? And Eric Worre says you need to do that to get your plane off the ground. And when I asked him, do you know any millionaires in network marketing that have not done a challenge of some type, like a 90-day, which he says you need to do at least once or more in your career. Some of them do it every year. But he said, no, I don't know any MLM millionaires who have not done a challenge. And he describes that you need to do that to get your plane off the ground, to get ahead of attrition. If you do even 2 presentations a day, that will get you ahead of attrition in your group. And people come in and people leave. If you do 5, you're really going to get a lot more momentum. If you do 10, then you're in a challenge. And you can probably keep that up for 30, 60, 90 days. And I get a thrill when I help people go through the challenge. There's something about that momentum. It's like when I surfed and when I used to live in San Diego. You catch a wave, it has got you, baby. It is strong, and you better know how to manage it, to manage that surfboard and manage the wave. I have one time got thrown up on the rocks when I didn't manage it properly. A little shaken up there, but yeah, it's bigger than you are, and it's like a car going with the wind. You get better mileage, you go further, farther, faster, better. And so momentum is a leader's best friend. But like Jeff was saying, we hope it takes a while in the beginning to get that momentum going, right? The plane can't start out at 1,000 miles an hour, however fast they go. They can't start there. They have to start the engines, they have to taxi, they have to build up the speed, and at the right time they increase the speed, and then they're able to take off. That beginning part is where we can get discouraged, as Jeff was saying. We hope that this is going to give you the encouragement and the trust in the process to weather the slow beginning parts as you gather that momentum. When you first get in network marketing, or your team does, you cannot go 1,000,000 miles an hour at once. There's going to be a little learning curve. They need to know the information. They need to experience the product and fall in love with it, and think of who they can talk to, learn the comp plan, learn the back office. There's a little learning curve, like there isn't any occupation, that you learn that in the beginning. So help them to know that and be patient with that, and compare it to other professions that sometimes take 4 to 10 years to learn. So if it takes them 30, 60, 90 days to learn this, to make even more than those other professions that can cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars in training and schooling, but will have a ceiling on how much they can make, whereas network marketing costs far less, free training, as on-the-job training, and has no ceiling. And as Jeff was speaking about Holton Buggs, who is for years one of the top, or the top earner in network marketing, he said it took him 7 years. Well, I heard Holton say that it took me 16 years to become an overnight success. So let us be patient during that part. A baby, like Jeff was mentioning, a baby, hello Joyce, welcome. A baby starts out helpless, and it takes around the clock just about attention until it becomes big enough to crawl, walk, run, get its own food, use the bathroom on its own, and then eventually to go to school and make a living and leave home. But in the beginning, it takes a ton of attention. So any business does in the beginning. And tracking it, as you heard, is a way to eliminate discouragement. When I ask people how many presentations or how much activity they have, oh, it isn't working, and I do it and it's not working. Well, how much do you do it? Usually they just need to improve, number one, improve the skills, and number two, increase the activity. So tracking it helps to eliminate discouragement when they can get a harsh reality check and say, wow, like Jeff said, people always think they're doing more than they actually do. And remember my client who said, Bess, she said, Bess, she's at that time a 6-figure earner. She and her husband, she goes, it's ridiculous how much we get paid for how little we do. But it wasn't like that in the beginning. She had to do a lot of work in the beginning with little or no pay. Then it starts catching up, and then it starts overwhelming and overcoming that. So back to Jeff and your other points.
So when we're winning, nothing hurts. When you're winning and you're moving forward, nothing hurts. It seems like, you're just able to break through the brick wall no matter what's going on. You're just able to blow past it, but it takes being out there. It takes making that move. Momentum is a leader's responsibility. It's your responsibility to create your team. It's not the responsibility of the market to make your team. It's your responsibility. It's your responsibility to get it going. It's your responsibility to go out and present. It's your responsibility to make those contacts. If you have the leads in front of you, then it's just tracking how many people you're getting in front of. You know, the problem is what are we bringing them to? When I lay out, here's the contact I'm using, here's the presentation I'm using, here's what I'm bringing people to. This is where it moves away from me. Here's the training calls, here's the events, here's what I'm sending people to. And I have to have that laid out, because if I'm not clear in where I'm bringing people, then I'm just talking to people about getting in. And that's what I see. That's one of the main reasons why I see people have such a hard time building momentum in the beginning, is what are you bringing people to? Well, if you get in, we have this. If you get in, we have that. What are you bringing people to right now? Here's the reason why. If you join, I can get you in front of this person. If you join, I can get you to this event. If you join, I can introduce you to this training system. It's the training system that's actually more important than the product line in a lot of cases, because the training system will help create momentum. The products necessarily won't help create momentum, unless maybe, you know, there's a lot of energy in your product. In some cases there are. So momentum is a leader's responsibility. It takes a leader to create momentum. It doesn't just happen. So you have to get to a point where you create momentum. We talk about, you know, a 30-day, you know, a 30-day or 30-day, you know, run, or a 90-day run. You know, that's where momentum starts. You know, being able to recruit 20 people in 30 days or 20 people in a 90-day time frame. It takes a lot to get it up and rolling, but you have to go all out at some point to get the plane off the ground. Momentum. Okay, so it says if you can't make the heat, get out of the kitchen. If you can't start the fire, it's hard to have the heat. And what does it take? It takes speed. You know, that was one of the first things Bess said. It takes speed. Momentum loves speed. Businesses love speed. Success loves speed. Success does not love, you know, a long, you know, huge run. It usually happens. It seems like it happens overnight. That's why we use the phrase overnight success. But it takes years of prepping to get that done. You know, some of you could blast off in 90 days. You could be leaders in your company. It would take 90 days to become a leader in your company. 90 days to start the momentum that would carry through to make it happen. Most six-figure ring earners said there was either one or two times that they took off at all out pace to be able to create six figures. You hear it over and over and over again. Just 2 90-day runs, 6 months to buy back years of your life. I think it's probably worth it. Momentum begins inside the leader. So that's where it starts. It starts with that, I've got to get this done. It starts with this, I can't sit here any longer. It starts with this, I'm not going to show up to a meeting again by myself. It starts with almost a dissatisfaction of where you sit and an expectation of where you want to go. I have to be at the trip that they're making to, you know, Cancun or Cabo or wherever they're going. I have to make that meeting that, you know, is inclusion, exclusion. I have to be at it. There's nothing that's going to stop me. I'm going. Leading others to the law of momentum. It's a mindset and an awareness. You know, that's where we start, you know, talk about being clear in what you're doing, being concise, you know, cutting out all the stuff that's unnecessary, just doing what's necessary. It's an environment and a culture you have to create. Remember, if it takes you a week to make a decision and a week to get started and a week to show one person and a week to show another person, my friend's like, you're going to have a weak business. I was like, that's funny. What only took me, I can get started in a week. Well, you know, you get started in a week and then they get started in 2 weeks and then their people get started in 4 weeks. And pretty soon you have a weak business. Everyday preparedness. Every day you have to have, you know, I was talking about this the other day, you know, a DMO. You have to have a DMO. What am I doing today? What am I getting done today? How many calls? How many presentations? How do we start the momentum? You start the momentum with a decision. It could be anywhere in the month. It could be anywhere in the day that you start the momentum and you're like, from here on out, this is the pace. And it's just picking up the standard. If the standard was 2 and you move it to 10, the standard just changed. How fast can that happen? The moment you make the decision, the moment you make the first day that you put in the effort, that's when the decision happens. The decision doesn't happen in your head. It happens in the activity you do. You can be an overnight success after 20 years of hard work. That's John's phrase. You know, The overnight success, 20 years of hard work, put in the preparation. Even the great John Maxwell, who was a pastor, of a church, led one of the largest churches in the United States up until that time, over 4,000 people in the 80s showing up in his congregation. This was way before the Joel Osteens and, the mega. People were flying in from all around the world. By 1983, he was already one of the most sought out pastors. He was in the top 10 congregations in the United States. And, what he says is, to get to even that point, it took years. Now, here's what's interesting. You would think with that kind of success, launching into leadership, he would do well. You know how many people he had at his first seminar? 14. He rented a room. He's like, do you know what happens when you rent a room for the weekend at a really nice hotel and 14 people show up? He's like, you lose money. You lose a lot. So here he is, this is a successful person in the outside. And even he started out by losing money and showing up and almost nobody being there. That's how he started. So if a Maxwell's going to show up like that, you got to give it time too. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to Bess for some closing thoughts, and we're going to wrap this up.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Jeff. Are you guys getting a feeling of patience and an idea of what it takes, and I think hope about where you can go by applying this? Here's 3 ways to apply it, to apply the law of momentum. Number 1, look and see, are you consistently enthusiastic? If not, you can change that. Number 2, identify the demotivators on your team, the demotivating factors on your team, and see if you can remove or lessen them. Number 3, celebrate and reward your team's accomplishments. Now, I want to speak a minute about doing a challenge. This happens to be a very good time of year to do one. There's really 2 of my favorite times of year, and that is the fall, right now, when the kids are going back to school and things are kind of settled down. And also people may need money for the holidays. So it's just this nice lull time. Summer's over, the distractions of traveling and family and kids and everything. Kids are in school and getting settled right now. So the fall is a good time. The kids are getting started in a new cycle of school, and it's a very good time to start a 30, 60, or 90-day challenge, hopefully a 90-day. But that involves you bringing in 30 new recruits to your team, and your team, helping your team to do the same thing. What happens when you do a challenge is that your team wakes up. They start to see this momentum, like little fires are starting here, and you're building and building. And when new people come in, they wake up and they go, oh, there's momentum. We love momentum, don't we? If a crowd is rushing to a place, don't you want to see what they're going to and kind of be part of that momentum and that focus that they have? It's like joining in that wave. And so your team wakes up. The best way to wake them up is to get active yourself. And when you bring new people in, and tell your stories, because when you start presenting 5, 10 a day, whatever you define your personal challenge to be, it might be 2 a day if you haven't been doing a lot. Your challenge might be 5, your challenge might be 10. But even full-time people can work in 10 a day on evenings and weekends if they want to, but at least 5 a day for some really healthy, fast momentum. So when you start talking to people, you're going to have stories. You're going to have discouragements, but you're going to have these cool things happen. You run across the right people, and oh, I was just looking for you. This means so much to me. Thank you. I was just needing this. And you're going to have these cool stories to tell your team as a result. And when you tell the stories, it generates more. And like Jeff was saying, when you're in this momentum, things don't hurt. When people say no and you get rejections, it's like, oh, no problem. I got my huge list of people that I plan to talk to. I'll just go to the next one. And you're in this flow, and it just doesn't faze you as much. You become more immune to the negative things that can attack network marketers. And I think one of the biggest ones is discouragement. So you become immune to discouragement that way. And I'm just going to brag for a minute. I happen to have developed what I call what I think is the state of the art support in helping people go through challenges. I've never seen any network marketer, coach, or teacher develop one this detailed, where I really help people to get their skills honed and upgraded before they do their challenge and clear their mindset. I have a special process to do that, to upgrade and clear your mindset. Then you're ready to go into the challenge. Then I have daily support for the people that I help. And if you know someone who would like to do a challenge this fall, because this is an ideal time, another one is right after New Year's, a new start for people. So those are really the two best times of the year to do a challenge. And if you know someone who might like to do one and might like to succeed better, please let them know they can private message me. I talked to one six-figure earner at Eric Worre's GoPro events one time, and she just finished her 90-day. And I said, how did it go? And she said, fine. And I said, could you have done better if you had had a coach? She said, undoubtedly. So that solidified, validated my work to me, and would love to help more people. Want to welcome Corrine, welcome, and everybody else who's joined us. Who has a question about momentum? How do you generate it? How do you keep it up? What might that look like for you? Please feel free to private message us. We're both coaches. We both help people to do this. If you want to know what a challenge might look like for you, how to custom make one for you that can fit into your life, it can. It can, no matter where you are, you can do a challenge, whether you're beginning, whether you have a couple hours a week to put into it or 20 hours a week, we can help you to define and execute your own personal challenge so you can get your plane off the ground, so that you can live your dreams and create the residual income and friends for years to come and be in control of your future. You can do this. Back to Jeff.
Awesome, guys. With that, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. If you like Bess said, if you ready to make that move, ready to go to that next level, you want that challenge, you need that help, you need that accountability, you need that commitment level, we're here to help out. If you're ready to make that run, just let us know. If you're ready to make that run on your own, let us know, so that way we can support you even from the outside. If if you've got it and you want to track it on your own, we're here. Either way, you can see us at the MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show. You can go over there, request to be on that page. We can help you out. Keep that page to leadership. We don't want to see links, leading people off to, every other thing in the world, no company, no products, no specific names. This is just about leadership and questions concerning what to do, the skill level of the business. So we appreciate everybody for joining us. Like we say, every day, Monday through Friday, same time, 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. We'll be here covering leadership principles and how we can help you build your business. So we appreciate you guys for joining. If you're watching the replay, just hit replay. And we always like, share, or comment. We'd appreciate that. Thank you guys so much. Have a great day.